All right, people are turning on here. Welcome.
Hello.
Yeah, I think maybe for now we've got a small enough group we can all unmute. We might have times we'll ask you to mute in case there's background noise or people having dinner or whatever may be going on. Thanks for joining us. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. It's a couple minutes after 6, so more people may join in as they become available or recognize that it's past 6 o'clock and they're eager to get in. Appreciate you all joining. My name is Andy McClure. I'm about a 1.5 year member of the Bay Area chapter of the Climate Reality Project, and kind of have raised my hand to coordinate activities around business engagement. We're a small enough group. We really want to make this a conversation more than a presentation, so I hope you'll be ready to contribute. First thing I want to do is go ahead and take a moment so we can all introduce ourselves. I'm going to share some slides. We have some material to go through, but I'll also just share the slides as a prompt for introducing yourself, so we can get the conversation going right from the beginning. So you all see my screen here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, so let me just go through the agenda real quick, and then I'll turn it over to have you all introduce yourselves. So I do want to spend a few minutes on introductions, especially as some more people filter in. We'll probably need to keep this pretty concise. So I have a screen with a couple of prompts for what would be good to share about yourself and your interests. We are going to go through some of the material at the national level, the Climate Reality Project. I know most of you, many of you, have recently gone through the training. You may have been exposed to a little bit about the Climate Business Working Group, but I think that was probably buried in lots and lots and lots of information if it was covered. So this will just be give you a little focus on some of what the national or international organization has done around business engagement already. We have taken a little bit of a unique approach in the Bay Area chapter. We're about just over a year into having a concerted effort around business engagement, and have a little bit of our own spin that we wanted to share with you. And it's always in pencil, so we're looking for people's input and inspiration to influence how we're pursuing things. Part of what we've recognized is we have some good partnerships with other organizations. We don't have time, as you all are aware, to reinvent the wheel. So I wanted to review some of what a couple of organizations are doing that are very complementary or extend upon what we're doing in Climate Reality Project. So a couple of our chapter members who were active in Climate Reality Project and some other initiatives will share these details about what 350.org is doing and a newer organization called Climate Voice. So you'll hear from a couple members about those initiatives. And then finally, really try to leave enough room toward the end to field your questions about Climate Reality Project, about business engagement, and especially learn about where you may have some interest in getting involved. So that's what we have to pack in to 45 minutes to an hour. If you could, let's kind of turn on our mics. I don't know, Amelia, if it's possible for me to leave the slide up while you look at the attendees and try to call out people in some order.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Bill, do you want to go first?
Yeah. Why don't we do that? Bill and Rupak and
Yeah.
Mary have been kind of involved with me so far. Sure. Why don't we prime the pump with your introductions?
Happy to prime the pump. So I'm Bill Weil. I live in San Francisco, been here for 26 years, so a long time at this point. Was trained in Los Angeles in 2018, so just over 2 years ago. I ran sustainability and climate work at Google for about 6 years and then at Facebook for about 6 years. So I've been deeply involved in companies engaged in climate for a long time now. And I'll tell you a little more about Climate Voice, which is my current thing later. But I think companies have an enormous opportunity and responsibility to do a lot more about climate. And so that's why I'm interested in business engagement.
Okay, Rupak, do you want to go next?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rupak Kandasamy. I was trained in Minneapolis in 2019. So what I'm part of is 350 Bay Area's business engagement initiative, and we'll talk about it more later, but we had kind of a couple of things. One, to increase businesses as far as remote work, their engagement in remote work, and second of all, to increase their sustainability process across the whole scale of their business. Bill was a big inspiration for the framework that we invented, and during the daytime I work in tech. So good to meet you all.
All
And
right.
then Mary Dubé is also on. Amelia, if we could.
Hi, everybody. My name
Okay.
is Mary Dubé, and I live in San Francisco. And I am new to the Climate Reality Project. I was trained virtually, actually, just back in August. And I became interested in business engagement team because during my full-time work, I work for HP. And gained familiarity with their own sustainability initiatives and started to understand the impact that business can have in the climate crisis. So I'm here to see how I can expand that.
Great, thank you. How about Pam?
Hi, I'm Pam Elio. I live in Danville, California. And I'm sorry, what was your name that you just spoke? Your first name was?
Oh, I'm Amelia.
Amelia, and then who just spoke?
It's
Mary.
Mary. So I work for Cisco Systems. I was trained as well virtually at the end of July. And I think, for me, the organization and the opportunity presented itself at Cisco, they definitely encourage participation in various charitable organizations. And I think where Cisco is headed as well, looking at an inclusive future for all and their focus on sustainability, and with throughout this pandemic, having meetings and especially getting involved in social justice initiatives. I think, this whole climate reality and the training showing that this is really this pivotal point of all of these things coming together. I'm also involved in the Moms Demand Action group in the local chapter out here. Ever since there was the shooting down in Santa Barbara, and my daughter was at UCLA and friends' kids were there. So again, all of that kind of ties back into social justice initiatives, and not to mention the impact that the fires continue to have on us in California. And so I'm looking at ways that you can make, I've got my Science is Real shirt on, but really kind of looking at help to be a voice and help. I have gotten engaged in some of the policy action squad locally in Contra Costa County, and was one of the ones that helped to, I think was it last week, we passed, the Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors unanimously passed the climate emergency resolution, which was great for us, and Wei Tai has been leading that effort. So business engagement, really, I look at, being a business person and my contacts, how can I help kind of help promote this effort that needs to happen quickly, because we see the impact that is having to this day, and we need to show that there is hope out there and what we can do. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Alex?
Yeah, sure. My name's Alex. I live in Mill Valley. I did the online training earlier in the summer. I'm pretty new to climate projects, so I'm looking to just learn and see where it might be appropriate to get involved. Business engagement, I thought I have a background, like I started as an investment banker in finance, and then I went to film school and worked at DreamWorks for a while. And then the last 10 years I've run a little education company. And I just like the idea of business engagement because I thought it's a place where kind of people's will and people's voice can have a real impact on the policies that an organization undertakes, and thus make an impact. So I'm excited to see what you guys are doing and see how it can help.
Great, thank you. Christina?
Yeah, hi everyone. I live in Foster City. I just moved to the US 2 years ago, and I was really intrigued on how I can have a positive impact here in the community. So I had an MBA from Berkeley, and I just got involved in all the sustainability efforts that the university runs. So I think that the business engagement group is a good way to keep my work going. So happy to be here.
Thank you. And Bruce?
Yes, hi, Bruce Payton. I'm from Sunnyvale. My day job is as a college professor, and one of the things I've been teaching for a long time is sustainable business, but also teach things on things like design thinking and creativity and collaboration. So I'm intrigued by ways in which we can engage the business community, because I think business will drive the changes more quickly than public policy can. So I'm just sort of new to this. I got trained in the summer in the virtual training, and I've just sort of been looking around for, where would be the most useful place to put my time.
Great, thank you. Geraldine?
Hello, I'm from France. I moved 4 years ago now in San Francisco. I work in the tech industry. I help people to find the jobs they love. And in France, in my last job, I was working for a furniture and decoration company, and I was taking care of their website about sustainable development. And that's how I discovered all the things around business engagement and how we can do something. And I'm trying now to get involved in my company and my colleagues. And so, yeah, I'm here to learning more about that. And I was trained also online last July.
All right, thank you. Leanne?
Hi, I'm Leanne. Oh, not showing up. Hello, I am Leanne Dietrich Paulson, and no relation to Christina, but same married last name. And I'm in Burlingame on the Peninsula, and I was in the virtual August 2020 training, so fresh off the training, and was totally inspired by the training. And I come from a business background. I've been most recently a COO of an ad tech and e-commerce company, so it just seemed like this is the area that I know kind of how businesses work and how to get into them, as well as I appreciate the impact, because I think businesses have so much reach and can get just a larger scale than we can as individuals. So if we can get businesses to move, then some of their employees will move, so we get an individual impact as well. So I thought this would be really exciting. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, Mark.
Hello, I'm Mark Levin, and I'm here with my daughter Minerva. She's going to wave to everybody, and my wife Dorothy.
Hi.
And we're all from Oakland, California, and Dorothy and I were both in this summer's virtual training. And so I work for Apple. I'm in our IT department, but basically I'm the product manager for our some of our sustainability, environment, health, and safety software tools. And so I'm interested, both in the general idea of making an impact through businesses, just because there's, the possibilities are an order of magnitude greater, but then also specifically within the organization that I work for. So, and the three of us can brainstorm ideas together, since we're all climate reality trained.
Mostly climate reality trained.
Yeah.
We'll work on that.
Yeah.
I'm Dorothy Levin. As Mark said, we were in the virtual training this summer together. I work at Capital One, where I do corporate and executive communications. And I have worked with a lot of our associates within the company about how to make impact for corporate social responsibility in the company. And also have worked with some of our community relations work. And I would love to know how to keep that kind of impact work front and center in the work that I get to do.
Great, well, thanks to all of you. The Very Hungry Caterpillar is a great book. So we have another Mary Kearney Brown.
Hi everyone, I'm Mary. I'm currently in Napa, California, but before COVID happened, I was in San Francisco. I got in touch with Andy a couple of months ago, and we had a preliminary call, but I haven't really come to any meetings before. So I'm really excited to learn more about getting involved and why business engagement. Yeah, I, like many others, my company has a pretty sizable sustainability department, and there are a lot of initiatives. I work at a data center company, and obviously data centers require a huge amount of energy to like cool and heat the servers, and it's like, yeah, pretty horrifying if you go into them. It's just like this constant warring of energy consumption. And there's been like a push to sort of offset that with like trying to do carbon offsets and become more sustainable overall. And so it's just been very interesting. Bill, did you say which data center? It's called Equinix. It's based out of New York City. But yeah,
Sure.
so it's been just really interesting to see and research other companies and hear about it. And obviously there's so much work that needs to be done in terms of getting businesses more sustainable and applying that pressure so that it's sort of a cultural expectation. So I was just really excited to hear about what you guys are doing and what sort of the general strategy is.
Awesome, thank you. Sarah?
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah. I'm currently based out of Santa Cruz. Before COVID, I was in New York City, so kind of made a big jump there. I got trained the first climate reality, the virtual one, this past summer, which was very exciting. I was really glad to get that opportunity, especially since I had been kind of stalking the trainings and I could never get to the right city. And why business engagement? So I work at a clean transportation nonprofit. So I engage with businesses in the transportation space, but I'm really interested in kind of expanding that to sustainability in general, and especially in the Bay Area, and particularly interested in how to most effectively reach the community and kind of strengthen the ties between business and community, and hearing what the community wants and putting that into action through these businesses. But also just really excited to learn more. So nice to meet you all.
Thank you very much. Yi Jean?
Hi, my name's Eugene. I'm currently in San Francisco, but originally from London, and I just completed the climate reality training from August this year, so very new. Why business engagement? I currently work at a clean tech VC. We're the corporate venture capital arm of Energy and E.ON, one of Europe's largest energy companies, and I think working in, excuse me, working with businesses and corporations is probably one of the most effective ways of really making impact on the climate space. So I think there's a huge wave of corporations that are already committing to carbon targets, but if we can increase that, I think that's probably a great way to make impact. So that's why I'm interested in this group.
Great, thank you. We had somebody jump on. Jamie, you want to just introduce yourself quickly?
Hi, my name's Jamie. I am actually joining along with Rupak from 350 Bay Area, and we're engaged in the business engagement team. So I'm excited to talk with everyone and talk more about the ways of how we can get more involved in business engagement.
Okay, great, thank you. And by the way, I am Amelia. I'm in San Francisco. I'm the Climate Reality Events and Programming Chair. So I'm helping run this event, which is why I'm here, but I also feel strongly about business engagement. And I work in environmental engineering consulting space, which, you know, I love, but it's a little difficult when we take on clients like the Koch brothers. So I think it's really important to send a message. Businesses send a message that, you know, they won't engage with these entities that are not taking into consideration the future of our world.
Cool. Good. Okay, so that's a wrap on who's currently here, right, Amelia? Awesome.
Yeah,
well,
I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah, and if people jump on, we can incorporate them in the conversation later. Thanks for introducing yourselves. I think I skipped past a couple of things. So again, my name is Andy McClure. Pam, I'm actually in Danville also.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, yeah. I trained in March of 2019 in Atlanta. So I think, yeah, I was kind of chasing where can I go? And eventually I was like, forget it, I just have to go wherever it is. And right about that time is when we recognized we wanted to pull together a business engagement focus. And kind of like Leanne, I think it's like, well, I'm a consultant, mostly to small companies, and business is my lane. So I just decided I would step in and try to help out. I don't have a particular background or expertise in sustainability, but it's important. So it's good for me to help coordinate and grow our efforts. So this is a huge step, just having you all here. So like I said, I wanted to first orient you to what's happening in the overall organization. There's a group that's been around for several years called the Climate Business Working Group. That has, and you can kind of read the statement here, a real focus on getting the training out, orienting it to a business audience, and inspiring those businesses to become more sustainable in their own practices. And this is a statement that that I grabbed out of their work. There's a monthly meeting that happens, which is kind of nice for those of you that want to get involved and continue to learn what's happening in other geographies. We have members of business engagement or business working group folks from around the country who jump on that call, and it's nice to hear what some other initiatives are and how they're working out. Since you've been through the training, or most of you have, it's important to check out the materials at the Reality Hub. I'm not sure how much emphasis they gave that in the recent training, but there is a group, a forum, and some materials for the Climate Business Working Group. So if you haven't been in there already, check out, I got the URL at the bottom here, realityhub.climaterealityproject.org. Be sure to seek out the Climate Business Working Group, ask to join that group. And like I mentioned before, one of the things I think is important, especially since you just recently were trained and you have an interest in business engagement, would be to go check out the files where there are some presentations that are tailored to a business audience. So they're constantly updating those. I think that, this summer they put out a new edition, as far as I recall. So I encourage you to check that out. Just a little more detail on what that emphasis has been, or how that group is focusing their effort. One is just making the case, trying to get out and teach companies that there's a self-interest in becoming more sustainable in their own operations. You'll see in a minute, there's another initiative called 100% Committed, which is specific to the transitioning to 100% renewable electricity by 2030. So that's in it, kind of a focus of that activity. Introducing ideas. So again, kind of teaching, inspiring businesses to be more sustainable in their own operations. There are some materials in those presentations that talk about how it's important for the millennials. If you want to attract top talent, your company better have a good story for how it's going beyond just making profits. What it's doing for sustainability and other initiatives that we're all recognizing are critical. Beyond just the slides that the group has created that are available in the Reality Hub, especially chapter to chapter or business working group to business working group around the country. It's good to see that they're creating, one-page flyers to help kind of lay out the story for a business audience. There are some regional initiatives where they're putting together materials that might be specific to how to get companies to get on board with renewable energy options available in their market, those kinds of things. So again, we're trying to do a lot to share ideas and materials across the different groups in the country. And certainly one thing we all have, especially now that it's virtual or they're offering it in a virtual way, to just inspire others to go through the training. It'd be fantastic if we could just continue to propagate and have more and more folks who are familiar with the reality, science-based information. And a little bit, and this is something that we're putting a little more emphasis on in the Bay Area, is to advocate for policy and legislation that will accelerate the migrations that we need to make. So just a little bit of background on the Climate Business Working Group. Like I mentioned, one of the initiatives actually, as far as Climate Reality Project goes, is beyond the business audience, called 100% Committed. There's also a group and materials in the Reality Hub for this initiative. You can see here, it's beyond business. The target audience here are schools, cities, universities, trying to get as many organizations as possible to commit to 100% renewable electricity by 2030. And that is certainly one of the tools that we all have in our bag to go and inspire businesses to make this commitment. There are some materials here for 100% Committed to kind of make that official, to put in front of business leaders and with some benefit to them of getting listed as being a company who's made that commitment. So background now, I've alluded a few times to the notion that we've taken up the Climate Business Working Group and have a little different or expanded view of it here in the Bay Area. This is not an official statement, but something that like you heard from Bill and Rupak, and actually Mary has been on some conversations to help shape this. But even as of a year ago, when we were trying to put this in place for the Bay Area chapter, it had some more momentum in other parts of the country. We thought we just had types of businesses here in the Bay Area beyond the target of small and medium-sized companies that the Climate Business Working Group is focused on, and also thinking that beyond just helping those organizations recognize and execute becoming more sustainable in their own operations or in their own products, but that actually, regardless of how far a company has gone, even if they are, among the leaders, they can always do more. So our view of business engagement here is to leverage the relationships we have, even in large companies, like we have people from Apple and Cisco and HP on the call. We didn't want to look past that and focus solely on small and medium-sized companies, which has been the focus of the efforts in other chapters. So we're really still organizing and reorganizing in one sense. We have, as a local chapter, done some work around content. So taken the slides from the national organization and tailored them to a West Coast story. We've also had some events here with a business focus right before COVID kind of put a wet blanket on everything for in-person events. We had a kind of a good momentum going at the chapter level of what were called salon events, more like climate conversations, where we were hosting evening networking and conversations, and we had a business-focused one there. We look forward to doing more business-focused networking among those of us who are already interested and sold on the importance. But certainly we have some materials beyond what's available in the Reality Hub that are targeted at business leaders. So if you have presentations that you want to give to a business audience or internal at your organization, please reach out to me if you want to take a look at some of what we've tailored. Something where we're putting more emphasis than some of the other chapters across the country is recognizing that employees can speak up from within. I think, Mark, you mentioned that as a piece of what you were interested in doing, or where your curiosity was. And this is where I'll leave it to Rupak in the next slide to share with us what 350.org, specifically the Bay Area chapter, is doing along these lines. So we've recognized, our lane, the Climate Reality Project, has a lot of momentum around training people, and we're looking to leverage relationships where we can that can extrapolate in other areas that complement being trained and giving the presentation. And one place where 350 has made some real strides is how to empower employees, how to arm them with tools and stories to make change within their own employers. You heard from Bill Weil before. He'll share with you another partner organization that really will help us have some resources and energy behind the notion of lobbying businesses to speak up, to go beyond just cleaning up their operations or trying to operate in a more sustainable way, but to throw their weight around when it comes to policy and things that we can do politically to have move forward more quickly. And then we're lucky to be in the Bay Area that we have perhaps surpassed 1,000 members, certainly approaching 1,000 members within our chapter. And even as we crossed 500 or so, we recognized as the business engagement group that, hey, if we can just communicate with our own members and make sure they're familiar with what they can be doing in their companies, or asking them to invite, maybe they're not interested in giving presentations. Perhaps it's okay to be in our chapter and not have gone through the climate reality training. So for the members that we have who either aren't equipped to or aren't interested in giving presentations to business leaders, we want them to be antennae to get us into organizations and certainly to speak up. So part of that is we need to be communicating about business engagement issues internally within our chapter, because we have the leverage of 1,000 or so people. We want them to be thinking about business engagement on our behalf. So I think with that, Rupak, I'm going to pull up your slide and give us an overview of what the 350 Bay Area business engagement activity has been.
Sure. Thanks, Andy, for the introduction and all the background. So 350 Bay Area Business Engagement, we started spring of last year when the executive director, Laura Nish, and I spoke, and we looked at what could we take as far as actions to involve businesses into the fight for sustainability and broader systemic change. And one of our theories of change was, if we can't do this in the Bay Area, how would we do it elsewhere? And along the way, I met with Bill, who was very gracious to the framework, which I'll go through on the right. And then Jamie and I have become co-leads over the course of this year, and we've built out a couple of things. So we're mostly a group of mid-career professionals, as it says here, who work in tech and tech-like companies that want to push our companies and other companies to take meaningful action on climate and also environmental justice. So as of right now, there's 2 sub-programs within our program. First, we recently added a program called Green Commute, Clean Commute, which is a group of very experienced activists who are working with municipalities and also the Bay Area Air Quality Management District to try to implement policies that encourage businesses to increase the amount of remote work that they do. And what this involves is meeting with those legislators during events and effectively increasing the participation of businesses in remote work so as to reduce the number of vehicle miles traveled. So we kind of see this as an entry point for businesses that are new to sustainability or have not really participated in sustainability yet. For those businesses that do have some sort of sustainability or are further along, we've put together something called a sustainability playbook for business. This playbook, as we looked around last year, as I mentioned, when we looked at business and how to take action on sustainability, we didn't really see anything that brought together all the different things that a business could do. So we put that together and organized it into 4 different pillars. One is our operations and supply chain. So this is mainly where you'll see businesses taking action now when they make net zero statements. It's really, for the most part, limited to this. Sometimes if they're a physical product company, such as Apple or Hewlett Packard, it'll flow into product. But as an example, when you think about a company like Google or a company like Microsoft, you don't really hear about them talking about the algorithms that are used from their companies to further fossil fuel extraction or deforestation, or even when it comes to Facebook and YouTube, when it comes to the climate misinformation environment. So that's product. Next, there's financial divestment. So divestment is also goes into financial investment. So divesting from fossil fuel investments, divesting from banks that support fossil fuel investments, and more investing in portfolios that support clean energy and a sustainable infrastructure going forward. And finally, public policy. So even a company such as Google, they've done a lot as far as operations. They still have ways to go on product and financial investment, but they tend to give a lot of money to the Chamber of Commerce and the American Enterprise Institute and a lot of other public bodies, which I'll let Bill talk about more. Now, our big focus is around these target companies currently. So these companies here are rated the most sustainable companies in the Bay Area. So we're looking to approach them, partner with them, understand what resonates, and then build on that in order to make this playbook better. And so that's what we're all about.
And Rupak, just a thought, because I think this is something you brought up previously, is some of the changes that as a result of the pandemic that are opportunities. And I think even some of them have made their way into the playbook. As an example, reductions in business travel have a material impact and look like they're going to continue even after the pandemic. Things like, allowing work from home reduces the commute. And I'm sure there are many others, but just some things that are obvious.
Hey, real quick, this is Pam. What's your strategy to get to these target companies? Have you made progress?
It's similar to our personal network. So we've been in touch with Cisco and Genentech so far, but we continue to explore our own networks personally in order to reach out to them, as well as other volunteers.
And obviously,
so I'll reach.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, I worked at Autodesk before too, and I worked with the CEO. He was a director when I was there, so I know Carl Bass. I know all those guys that are at the top and SVPs there. So I'm happy to help. I know some of the key communications people at LinkedIn, and I know some people that helped to found Workday. So I can help with those, and anybody else at Cisco. I work with all the executives, so I can certainly make additional inroads in there.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, obviously, I can get you in and around HP pretty easily. But I think that's one of the advantages that we were talking about is, so even if you look beyond this group, if you look broader, 1,000 members in the Bay Area, how many are working at some of these companies? And I think it's a way to, it's kind of a quick win way to get quick traction,
Yeah, thanks, Pam and Mary. We'll definitely reach out afterwards.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, good. Any other questions or thoughts for Rupak? And we'll have more opportunity for discussion in a little bit as well. Okay. Yeah, so now I wanted to turn it over to Bill Weil, give us some background on Climate Voice.
Sure. Thanks, Andy. We are really focused primarily on the public policy side. So Bruce, to your point, I think you're right. There are things businesses can do much more quickly. Getting the change we need in terms of decarbonization at the speed and scale we need it is going to require policy. We need to cut emissions in half by 2030. So I like to think of this as the improv approach to climate. It's yes and, yes, we need all the things Rupak just talked about in terms of decarbonizing your operations, working on your products and so on. And we need public policy. And the problem we have today, the reason why public policy has been so broken in the US at the federal level and many other countries in most states in this country, is the really, let's say, nefarious influence of the fossil fuel industry, the Koch brothers and Exxon and many others, who spent the last several decades peddling disinformation, inaction, delay. to stymie public policy. And they're beginning to shift a bit in Europe, not so much in the US or in many developing countries. So Europe with the European Green Deal, I think we're seeing actually what could be a major shift in the next couple of years. In the US, except in California and New York, I'd say those two states are kind of really at the forefront. Most other states are still way, way behind where they need to be. And even California and New York aren't where they need to be. So it's not business or policy, it's both. And the problem we have is the enormous influence that the fossil fuel industry exerts. One of the things that could help counter that is all of these climate-friendly businesses that are doing all this work in their operations, and in some cases inventing and selling amazing products that help people decarbonize, video conferencing so you don't have to travel, which didn't actually seem to reduce travel until the pandemic hit. But I think now that a lot of people are realizing, hey, I can actually do this without traveling, I think we will see less travel, but it's not going to go to zero. And so without public policy, we're not going to get transportation emissions down where they need to be. We're not going to get building emissions down where they need to be. So our focus is on getting businesses to make that last step in their journey around sustainability on climate, from starting with maybe they're recycling a bit and they've got some grassroots initiatives, to then they're buying clean energy and they're cleaning up their own operations, and then they're cleaning up their supply chain. Then maybe they're actually cleaning up the use of their products. And investments and so on. But that final leap to really engaging in public policy, businesses tend to resist because they see risk. And in fact, the other side has intentionally politicized the issue in part to create that kind of risk so that businesses and others will stay on the sidelines and not engage. We're working to change that, and our focus is to mobilize the workforce, current employees, students in the role as future employees, to issue a clarion call to business that now is the time to get off the sidelines, speak up on climate policy, be clear that we in this state, in other states, in the US as a whole, in other countries, need policy to drive change at the pace we need it. And we're looking for people at a minimum to go to our website. We've got a pledge and petitions you can sign. We're going to have a new campaign we're going to launch probably in mid-November, really targeted at getting the big 5 tech companies to get off their butts in 2021, because 2021 will be, every year for the last decade's been critical on climate. 2021 will be especially critical. If the election goes the way I hope it will, we actually will have an opportunity in DC to do something at the federal level. If it doesn't, we're going to have to do an enormous amount in a whole bunch of states. And even if we can do stuff at the federal level, we'll need to do stuff at the state level. So we need to let businesses know that their employees really want to see them do this. Part of what we're doing as an organization is educating students so that they understand the political dynamic and that politics and policy are hard, but businesses actually have influence. They just mostly choose not to use it unless it benefits them directly. And to get students to start to take that into account when they choose where to work. And as businesses understand that and see the recruiting and retention risk if they continue to stay silent, our belief is that that will motivate them to stand up. And this worked. If you look at what happened around LGBT rights over the last decade, starting about 10 years ago, over 2 to 3 years, there were a whole bunch of businesses that were really good on LGBT rights in their operations and silent on public policy. And over a very small number of years, hundreds of them became very vocal on public policy at the federal level in a whole bunch of states because their employees spoke up and because the attitudes of young people, students, had shifted. We're trying to create the same dynamic on climate. So I'd encourage you to go to our website and check it out. If you want to learn more, feel free to reach out to me. I would say in the very short term, there in California are some issues that are worth trying to get whatever businesses you work for or might have influence at, or the ability to organize some employees around. Right now, the California Energy Commission, CEC, is engaged in a proceeding to revise Title 24, which is the energy efficiency part of the building code. They do this every 3 years. So this is the revision that'll take effect a year from January, so beginning of 2022. If we miss this window, it'll be 2025. And what they are, one of the things they're considering is an all-electric baseline for buildings, basically requiring all new construction to be electric ready. So not going to ban natural gas, but they will require that any new construction invest in the capacity and the wiring so that electric appliances, stoves, furnaces, et cetera, could be put in, which means most businesses won't, most buildings won't put in natural gas because it costs extra, and why do both? The fossil fuel industry, the natural gas companies in particular, as you can imagine, are fighting this like mad. SoCal Gas in particular, because they are only a natural gas company, the only growth they see in the state is new construction. And so if this kind of thing goes through, they see their business just declining. And unlike PG&E, which is gas and electric, you know, they don't have then growth in electricity to compensate. So there's a really massive push coming against this. We are, Climate Reality Bay Area and Sierra Club and a whole bunch of others are working to organize both NGOs as well as a grassroots support for these kinds of changes. I think it would be really helpful if we could get a bunch of businesses, especially big ones, but also small ones, to reach out to the governor, to reach out to the CEC and express their support for this. The timing is the next few months. There are ongoing proceedings, but this will all get settled probably in the spring, and then they'll be writing the final rules. So the fall and early next year are a good time to get whatever businesses you can engage to speak up on this. Anyway, so I guess my main point is we need all the things businesses can do themselves. We also need them to realize that they do have influence, and we all need to realize that, and they need to use it, not just for their own good, but for, you know, our collective good and future. Because otherwise the dominant business voice in these conversations is the fossil fuel industry, and that's why we are where we are today.
You know, just a thought, Bill, is you were talking a bit earlier about sort of what motivates business to get involved. And you were talking about employee retention, recruiting. But I think there's another area that's developing, which is, you know, around buying decisions, and they certainly care about that. And the reason I bring that up is because at least before everybody was permanently working from home at the, you know, I guess temporarily working from home, but I would speak with clients that came into the customer welcome center, and they would very specifically ask about that, and it was part of our material. We're starting to see it in RFPs over the past year as well, and at serious buying decision criteria. So I think there's a couple things to motivate them to do it, you know, to be able to get them on board.
Right, completely agree. And I think that's true for all the stuff Rupak was talking about. We frame it at Climate Voice as we want companies to be all in on climate. That means anything they're doing, they should be asking not just what's the impact on my financial bottom line, what's the impact on our collective climate bottom line. So, you know, some of you mentioned the Amazon, Google, Microsoft selling AI for oil exploration, which Google has actually said they're going to not do new contracts, at least on that, but Microsoft and Amazon have doubled down. That's not consistent with the safe climate future we need. And businesses, I mean, businesses care about, a range of stakeholders, but primarily customers, users for the big tech companies whose users don't actually pay, so you can't really call them customers. So customers and users, investors, and the talent pool. The problem with getting customers to ask for this is that, to ask for the policy piece, is if the customer is a company and hasn't yet made that leap themselves to really being all in on the policy piece, they're not going to ask their supplier to do it. So that's why we are, at least for the moment, focused mostly on the talent pool. We're also engaged with a bunch of groups that work with investors who are focused on sustainability, to get them to start to push the companies, you know, when they do shareholder resolutions and other things, to push the companies not just to focus on their own operations and their own risk from climate as a company, but to actually engage in helping deal with the systemic risks that we all face. And I think that will begin to shift as well. But the talent pool, I mean, you know, it didn't take much on gay rights to move companies, even though they saw enormous risk in engaging on that issue. And I think that we can get, you know, a half dozen big companies over the next year to really move, and they can be the pace setters. And then hopefully we get a real snowball effect from there.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you, Bill. We've got a few minutes left. If people can stay longer for some discussion, that's great, but we won't stay on too long. I do want to fit in a quick poll. Just, you know, so to somewhat summarize, we hope we've gotten across that we have a pretty expansive view of what business engagement is, and probably we welcome even greater expansion. But we've thought of more or less 4 different categories, and we're curious to hear how people are interested in those. So we're getting some results in here. Just as you're answering, just to recap, outreach and education is putting your training to work, getting out in front of business leaders, perhaps contributing to creating content, customizing a slide deck. So if that interests you, that's the first option there. Empowering employees, especially around the resources, the materials that Rupak talked about, that 350 has put so much effort into. That's a great place for us to put some extra energy behind what they're already doing versus reinventing the wheel. Public policy, you know, like Bill pointed out, even very specifically over the next few months, getting some effort behind what needs to happen with Title 24 and electrification of buildings. If that interests you, that's, you know, certainly an area where we can gather people together and put some, get to work. And then, like I said, would really love some help, some leadership around, hey, we talked about it before, you know, we've got 1,000-ish members in the chapter. Just like LinkedIn would tell us, if you have 1,000 contacts, then your secondary contacts are 92 million or something. I don't know, 92,000. I don't know what the number is, but we have incredible potential for reach. And right now we're not doing enough to seed our own members with information or knowledge about how we can be influencing business to take a leadership role. All right. So actually, Amelia, I don't know how this works. Can people see the results already?
I think they should be able to. We had one person didn't answer.
Okay.
So I just ended it and figured I would just share it.
Cool. So pretty balanced. Okay. That's great news, because these are all areas we want to make some progress in. What would be great if some of you would share what, you know, now that you have a little bit more information and you've thought about what would interest you, if you take a moment to share why that struck you, what you're envisioning. Also, we're open, especially as you heard from Bill and Rupak. You know, we've been in the chapter for a while and can share our insights about how climate reality overall, how the Bay Area chapter is functioning. You know, Amelia is certainly very involved with leadership. So if you have questions about the chapter, we're open to help provide some clarity there, but especially around business engagement. You know, Mary, I don't know if you wanted to share what you're thinking now that you've been on a few business engagement conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we had envisioned is, you know, there clearly there are a few focus areas here, and with a few more people, because I think it's been 3 or 4 of you to this point, so a larger group, there's an opportunity to kind of break into some working groups and really move the bar. I think, I don't think that it means that you can only help in one area or another. For me personally, I really feel that this idea of where business and kind of policy meet has the potential to pack a big punch. And so if I had to pick one area, I think that that's the area that I'd pick. Because I think someone said it earlier and I wrote it down, is that, you know, business can really drive change quickly. And I think that if we can put that in action together with those that are influencing policy, then we really have a material impact.
You know, I think too, to Mary's point, and I know that Cisco has now joined forces with even their competitors during this pandemic and things like that. I think there's an opportunity to take advantage. And I know I've attended some women's network meetings at HP, but there's an opportunity to look at that. What is good can come out of the fact that we've been in lockdown and these companies have now been communicating. I think there's a way that we can communicate their stories outbound. I know Cisco has taken, you know, major strides in what they've done, and they've done some publicity, but I think certainly they can do more and encourage other businesses. And I know they influence their own supply chain and Equinix, right? I mean, things like that, where we lower the, you know, everybody's looking at how to cool data centers more efficiently and things like that. So lowering your carbon footprint. So I do think there's, you know, there's a way to help take advantage of that. And to your point, getting in smaller groups, I think that's what's needed. I was trained in July and I haven't done the presentations. I've been doing policy action squad things, but I think that will help to have that group and to be able to go forward. I have a lot of people. I know I've broached my boss, who's a senior vice president at Cisco, and you know, I certainly can take advantage and, you know, get into some meetings and being able to present to people. And a lot of it, I'm probably preaching to the choir, but that's okay. It's good practice. And like you said, it's just, they can influence more people in their sphere as well. I know I've encouraged people to, you know, do training. I think there's a lot of other things you can do from a business perspective. So I definitely would be interested in, you know, working with a subset of a group to be able to, you know, move that forward.
Great. Yeah. Anybody else want to share what's inspiring you at the moment? We're at the top of the hour, so I understand if anybody needs to drop off. Skylar, okay. Skylar, I see you raising your hand. Yeah. Oh, you're muted still.
Skylar, you're still muted.
Hey,
there we
can
go.
you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, one area that I was thinking, there's a couple of areas, but one in particular was I bank at Bank of the West, and the executive vice president of Bank of the West is doing a lot of work with regarding to one way to influence banks and how they use all of their money to invest is to look at your bank as to how are they investing their money. So this is how you can reach out to employees and lobby them so that they can change and pull their money out and start in working with a bank that is climate supporters, and how are they investing their money. And I think this is an interesting way that the employees can get involved, is to make a decision about who are they doing business with their banking. And it's another way. I just found out about this Bank of the West and the executive vice president, and he's worked with a great little company back in New York that's been doing videos about some ways to be more sustainable in life. I'm going to follow up with them because I thought this is one way that is an everyday kind of thing that your employees are involved in, is who are they banking with, and finding that out. And I thought that might be one way to then have an influence on the banks themselves to make different decisions to continue to attract the kind of customers that they want, because that's key today. And so how are they investing their funds is a key issue. And I thought that's one thing I'm going to try to follow up on. The other thing is, I think when we look at all the beleaguered office buildings that are emptying out, I think it's really important that, I don't know if you saw in the July 12th issue of the San Francisco Chronicle, it was a Sunday section on the through to section, I think it's called. They talked about micro hoods and how they were taking old office, these two corporate office buildings in San Francisco that were just across the street from each other, and trying to bring them together through taking one of the office buildings and making it low income housing, and the other one to become a more vertical farming, creating their own geothermal energy, creating their own wastewater and clean water treatment plants and so on. And the streets in between be used for entertainment. But it's an interesting way to use vacated office buildings and turn it into something that we need, and create little neighborhoods within a larger community to help rebuild and revitalize these beleaguered financial districts, and also to create housing for migrants that are coming to the area, or homeless people in some of these buildings, and getting these people to live there, get trained about how to actually have jobs to run these vertical farming and these energy producing companies that are supporting their living spaces, to help them become more essential people to and workforce within the city. So those are just a couple of areas, and it's a large architectural firm that has made this proposal with a drawing. And so I thought it'd be interesting to follow up with policy to see how that's moving forward and what they're doing. And they're great influencers in San Francisco. They're the same architectural firm that built the new center for where the Warriors are playing. And, you know, they have big contracts, so they could be a big influencer. So those are just a couple of areas that I've heard about, that I've been thinking about. And I'm very new to this. So, you know, I'm just
that's great. I think there's room for all of this, and I think, you know, one area that we have some expertise in the group that's not on tonight, just in terms of the built infrastructure. Barry Giles is a guy who's established some of the lead requirements and very well versed in that. So I could envision, you know, some people taking interest in what we could be doing to influence. Again, that may be piggybacking on just some near-term effort to make sure Title 24, you know, the influence that while we have this window of opportunity. But I do want to go ahead and wrap up and stay roughly on time. I like to have that reputation of keeping things running on time. Really excited that you all chose to join tonight. Tremendous amount of interest. That's really encouraging. I think what clearly we need to do from here, we did this poll, we got you thinking about what you might be interested in supporting. I'll work and perhaps with Amelia to get some information out. I might set up a form or something just to record specifically the areas that you may be interested in, so we can start communicating about these particular areas of interest. Certainly be thinking, if you have the bandwidth and the interest to lead a committee or a subgroup around one of these areas, and again, perhaps some of these may even break down further into more groups. So I think that would be a wonderful thing to come out of this, is to have some subgroups that are thinking further ahead about what we could be doing. We'll certainly communicate with this whole audience who attended, and others who have expressed interest through the chapter form. That is how we reached most of you, that you expressed an interest in business engagement. So we'll continue to communicate to that whole audience about things that we're doing and opportunities to get on another call. And again, probably some smaller group conversations to come. So I put up here 24 Hours of Reality. We didn't talk about it at all. Hopefully you're aware of it happening this weekend. If not, go to 24hoursofreality.org. If you're not, you know, already giving a presentation, find one to attend. if you just did go through the training and you're looking for your first audience, pick this weekend. There's a whole, on the Reality Hub, a way that you register your presentation, even if you're just giving it to, I think, Mark, you all can give you and your, both of you can give a presentation to your daughter and count it. Find some family members, friends who will, participate in a Zoom meeting or distanced around the table. But check out 24 Hours of Reality. Make sure you're familiar with that. Keep an eye out for communications from me or from our group. And if you do have questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. I've got my email up on the screen. And I think that's a wrap, unless.
Have one other comment.
Yeah, Skylar, please.
I just thought it was funny. I had an appointment with a chiropractor last Saturday, and when he heard about what I was doing with Climate Reality and these presentations, he said to me just before I left, "I'd like to work with you. I think I could arrange some times for you to do a presentation, and I will organize and bring several of my patients together who are in different organizations." So I just thought, be sure to tell everybody what you're doing, and you might be surprised how they want to support you because it's something they're interested in. So that's just a side note. Just tell everybody, I tell my doctors, I tell everybody I go to, and see if they can organize their group for me to do a presentation.
Yeah.
Well, and especially someone like that, if he's got patients who work at all sorts of different, you're suddenly getting connections into lots of different organizations. That's really
because they're personally involved and they have kids, and so they're very interested. So I just thought that came off my head, and I'm sorry I'm taking time.
No, that's great. That's awesome. I appreciate everybody's participation. Bill, Rupak, Mary, anything I forgot to cover or final notes?
Don't think so. This is great. Thanks for organizing. Okay. Everybody, thanks for being trained. Thanks for caring.
Right.
We look forward to working with you.
Great. Yeah, and thanks, Amelia, for being here to host everything. So
not a problem. My pleasure.
Okay, more to come.
All right. Bye, folks. Have a good one.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.